Welcome back. Now, Brand Africa, in partnership with the African Business and the Economic Commission for Africa, has unveiled its annual Brand Africa 100, ranking Africa's best brands. Each year, the Brand Africa 100 survey identifies the most admired brands across the continent based on independent research representing over 85% of Africa's population and GDP. And joining us now with greater insight on the findings of the survey is Brand Africa's founder and chair, Thebe Ikalafeng. Thank you so much for your time, Thebe. And I can just see with what came out, if our viewers can see this.
Well, I mean, this is the South Africa version, because remember, we announced the Africa results already in May on Africa Day.
Yes.
But this past Friday, we announced South Africa's best brands in partnership with Business Day.
Lovely. And I can just see that you are indeed a marketing maven with this.
It's not me, it's your team at Business Day.
Lovely.
You've done an amazing job.
Okay, well done to our Business Day team. Just firstly, talk to me about the title Best or Admired Brands. How do you characterize consumers' engagement with these brands? What really are the tools of measurement here?
I think admiration is the highest order when it comes to brand equity, because admiration speaks to loyalty, it speaks to respect, and it speaks to loyalty and respect, and that's what every brand wants to have.
Yeah.
And that's why we focus on admiration, because I always get asked the question.
Yes.
I said, usage is easy. You can buy usage. We can force feed you.
Yeah.
And you have no other choice.
Yeah.
And that's why when you look at the list, you see brands which are not even in the country, or brands which are not even accessible.
Yes.
With the Louis Vuittons, the Hermes, and all those. And you're like, but they don't have those, they can't afford those. It's admiration,
but they are in there.
because it is what we say, as your best friend Kanye West says, wait till I get my money right. If I get my money right, I'll be able to afford those brands. Because admiration speaks to aspiration as well. It speaks to what they would get if they had all the choices in the world.
Yes, because I was going to ask about the weighting of international brands versus South African homegrown brands, and also how that translates to consumers actually allocating their money to those brands that they admire.
Well, from an admiration perspective, in South African perspective, the US and South Africa are the dominant brands, South African brands in South Africa. 32% of the brands in the top 100 most admired brands in South Africa are made in South Africa. Now, 32% are made in the United States. How that translates to the bottom line, well, this is the first level of what you need to do. First, you need to get people to love you.
Yeah. Okay.
Because if they love you, then you'll be their first choice when it comes to usage. So they first prefer you, then they use you, then it filters to your bottom line.
Okay. What exactly is the common thread, particularly looking at the diversity of these brands, geographical diversity? What is the common thread in terms of telling the African story?
Well, let's pick South Africa, because let's stick with South Africa.
Yes, the South African story,
If you look at the South African story, as you see on the cover of Business Day this year, you can see that the young brands have come to play. Three of the top three brands are Batu, Galaxy Boy, Marcos,
as we can see on the cover,
were all born 15 years or so ago. So the young brands are really giving the established brands a tough time. But the big brands are still there.
Yes.
I mean, MTN is still ranked the one brand that contributes to a better South Africa, better Africa.
Yes.
FNB is the #1 financial services brand in South Africa. Standard Bank is the #1 financial services brand in the rest of the continent. And you can go through the list like that. And South Africa is the most preferred country that everybody believes contributes to a better Africa.
Yes.
By South Africans, by the rest of the continent as well.
I mean, just talking about these three heavyweights, Batu, Galaxy Boy, Maxhosa, I'm just wondering that, because you talk about them being youth brands, how much value then is placed or should be placed on the inclusion of the youth in South Africa's branding agenda?
Well, there's 50 to 60% unemployment of young people in South Africa. The rest, and 70% of the continent is under the age of 30. So the young people are tired of waiting. They're tired of somebody saving them, and they are coming up with their own solutions. And you can see that consumers are supporting them as well, because they're coming up with quality brands. It's not just if you will run of the mill brands. I mean, Marcos is an international a knitwear brand. Batu is an incredible, successful sneaker brand that makes the likes of the Nikes stand up of attention. And Galaxy Boy is a beautiful mid-range luxury brand, right?
Yeah.
And I think what that means, to answer your question specifically, it means that as a country, we must pay attention to the young people. We must pay attention to the Gen Z, must pay attention to the millennials. Although when you look at the rankings by millennials, by Gen Z, by baby boomers and all those, Nike is their #1 brand. And Nike has been the #1 brand in the continent and in South Africa for 8 years in a row.
Actually, is there a consideration of the impact that companies make in broader society, where me admiring a brand is not just due to how the brand makes me feel, but due to the difference that it makes in communities?
That's why we've got two important metrics in the study for the last couple of years. One is which brand contributes to a better society and environment, and which brands contribute to a better continent and a better country. And in that space, that's why you see the M10s of the world are contributing to a better country in the continent.
Well,
the continent.
Yes. Well, I was actually there at the event on Friday, and it was also really great to see that Brand Africa wasn't just honoring companies, but it was actually, there was a very special award that was given to a person, a leader who's been behind some of the most successful branding stories in South Africa and in Africa, and that's Sydney Mbele. He's currently the ABSA Group Chief Marketing and Corporate Affairs Officer. Why was this important?
It's important. So in the last couple of years, we've expanded the study and we expanded the brand Africa to look at leadership, because behind every great brand is a great leader.
Yes.
And if you look at the award, the Africa Brand Leadership Excellence Award for distinguished leadership in building great African brands, that honor went to Sydney Mbele, the Chief Marketing Officer of ABSA, for a couple of reasons. One, he has led South African brands, 3 major South African brands, and have left them very successful, and has left them in great hands. So when it comes to talent, when it comes to building great brands, he's done a superb job and acknowledged by everyone. And we had a very tough panel, so it wasn't like a run-of-the-mill panel.
Yeah.
I mean, you had Masram, who's got like a 30-plus years, 40-year experience with Coke and many other brands. You had Hepin Chingila from ABSA, from Supersport. You had Nomsa Chaberi from MTN, from SABC. You had Jeremy Sampson, who's like 50-year, just got lifetime achievement. You got Nyimpini from General Electric. You actually had a very formidable team to judge this. And that's what they tried to look for. They tried to look who is leading great South African brands or South African brands to greater heights, but also taking them beyond the borders.
Yeah.
So in a way, economic ambassadorship, if you will, and that's what, and that's why Sydney was recognized. We also recognized Nolo Letele for his contribution to growing the DSTV across the continent, over 50 countries for the last 30+ years, And the reason we did that, again, is we wanted to recognize excellent people who are contributing to a better South Africa. And we had one more other recognition. We recognized African Bank.
Yes.
But in recognizing African Bank, it wasn't a beauty contest. It wasn't who's got the prettier brand. It was more about which brand has been, if you will, exemplary, a benchmark of homegrown African brands. And we recognize African Bank because it was turning 50 this year in July, and we believe, and that brand was started by Epinet Mbeki, was started by Dr. Mutsuengane, Dr. Richard Maponya.
Yes.
Icons who are no longer with us today, but we recognize them for 50 years of resilience, but most important, 50 years of inspiring homegrown African brands. Remember, that brand was started in the depths of apartheid.
I'm stealing 1 minute. I just want to ask, I mean, in all of this, you talk about these brands connecting to the consumers. You talk about consumer loyalty and a kind of aspirational view that they have in terms of these brands. Is it all about big marketing budgets?
A very good question. I was on the team. I was on a call this morning with the team from Dangote out of interest in Nigeria.
Yeah.
And they were saying that's quite interesting. We don't spend too much money on big campaigns, but we are one of the best brands in Nigeria and in the continent. And we spoke about that for a particular reason, because big money does not necessarily mean big love.
Okay.
Because you need to invest in a love. I mean, if you look at the Grand Prix, went to two banks, went to MTN and for Africa, and went to Woolworths for South Africa. What have these two brands done? From an MTN perspective, has been about bringing telephony, enabling consumers across 19 plus markets, 250 million people to be able to interact, to be able to transact, and all those. From a Woolworths has put sustainability at the center of their business, and the other big Grand Prix for sustainability went to Checkers. What has Checkers done? It's the biggest employer in the country. So we're not looking at big campaigns. We're looking at big impact. This wasn't this. We don't sit around the table and ask who's got the best campaign. We go to the consumers and ask them who do you admire, who's had the greatest impact in your life.
Right. Well, Thebe, I must let you go, but thank you so much for such an insightful conversation. I really do look forward to this every year. Well, that was Thebe Ikalafeng, founder and chair of Brand Africa.